set in this interesting world of contrasting ideologies, what's right and wrong, and philosophy about it.
Game of Thrones is about power struggles in a fantasy kingdom called Westeros, and it's about a struggle for the Iron Throne, which is the seat of power in this kingdom.
The war come in there, go away, and we fight it. It's coming.
At the core of it, there's a conflict for power between two great houses initially, House Stark and House Lannister. The other major houses are all contenders as well. It's a super complicated political situation.
The old truth of power corrupts, I think, is very valuable. And it shows as you see characters come into power and how they change. In a way, it's about how people forget to see the bigger picture. It's a kind of threat that everybody kind of ignores because they're too busy pursuing their own interests.
And meanwhile, outside the kingdom, two great threats are rising. One across the sea in the exiled Targaryen siblings, and another one far to the north, beyond the wall, which is the boundary of the Seven Kingdoms, in lands of perpetual ice and cold, where a supernatural threat is stirring.
It's very different from anything that's been done. I can't live another fantasy which is as dark as this one is, which is just gritty and as real.
Every single character is incredibly complex. You think you know them, you think you've got them pegged as what they seemingly are, but they really aren't.
If there's someone in your service whom you trust completely,
Yes.
the wiser answer was no, my lord.
It's not a good guys, bad guys story. It's a story where everybody is pursuing their own interest and everybody's following their own code, and it's about those interests and those ethics coming into conflict with each other. And it provides a much richer story than the guys in white beating guys in black.
Perhaps I was wrong to distrust you. Distrusting me was the wisest thing you've done since you climbed off your horse.
It's quite a big scrolling, I think, from the story. Fascinating characters, different characters, very rich, sort of tasty characters, and you don't need a lot of things to fit in.
Surely we haven't gone long. What do you sound like doing down his line?
I don't know. So I find it's very dense, it's very multi-layered, intriguing, fascinating.
Ned Stark is the center of the series.
He's a very realistic, sort of pragmatic character.
Which is fine with it.
You've got your one to help me. I made it for me. Hey, my lord.
There's nothing to forget. His principles, his values, and the world is very loyal. It's something that he demonstrates on many occasions.
You helped me win the Iron Throne, now help me keep it. We were meant to rule together.
Ned is the Lord of Winterfell, and he's married to Catelyn Tully. Together they have a number of children. Jon Snow is of an age with Robb, the eldest son, and they're closest brothers.
I would say Jon Snow is a young hero at that point.
Well, no, he is. You're the least useless person I know.
Personally, I think there's a hell of a lot of inner turmoil if he's fighting between his ambition to be someone and to make a mark on things.
I'm ready.
Let's go. You know, Ray?
Here.
Want to get through here?
Yeah.
His ambition can and does make him do quite extreme things.
The Lannisters are the Queen's family. Robert Baratheon, the king, wed the daughter of another great house, Cersei Lannister. She is the queen of the Seven Kingdoms.
She's quite tricky, layered and power mad. She's smart and political. She has a very hard time trusting anyone. You're just a soldier, aren't you? Take your orders and you carry on.
I was also trying to kill my enemies in grace.
There's a definite sense of Cersei that if it will further her game of power, she'll get rid of anything. It doesn't really matter.
Jaime, her twin brother, is one of the members of the King's Guard.
It would be good to have him be
conditions become extreme.
I don't fucking students. Just gonna fuck the man for real. I don't ignore him now.
He is a soldier. He doesn't care about the politics. He knows the game, and he does not want to be directly involved.
Cersei and Jaime also have another brother, Tyrion Lannister.
Tyrion Lannister, because of his size, had a very complicated upbringing in relation to his father and his sister. Very well read. He has zero power for physical defenses, so he has to defend himself with his wit and charm.
Why'd you read so much?
Look at me and tell me what you see.
It's a trip.
What you see is a dwarf. My brother has a sword, and I have my mind. The mind needs books, like a sword needs a whetstone.
There's a set of characters that you also encounter who are across the narrow sea on an entirely different continent.
May I present my honored guests, Viserys of House Targaryen, the rightful king of the Andal, and his sister, Daenerys of House Targaryen.
He's the man on a mission. He's very obsessive about one thing, which is regaining his crown.
You write the history of my reign, sweet sister, and will say it begins today.
He's very bitter and resentful of the people who took it from him, and he carries a huge burden.
His sister is Daenerys Targaryen, also known as the new Stormborn.
Tell them to stop.
You want your Dark Lord to stop? For how long?
Until I command them otherwise. She goes on such a journey. She gets put up with a lot of obstacles coming her way, and every time she overcomes them, she succeeds. And she kind of just gets stronger and stronger as she goes on. She's an incredible, incredible wicked person.
There's plots within plots and wheels within wheels, and many people competing for one seat.
Going into this has always been something very important to us. That things never look fake. For us, it's more about creating this world and making it an authentic and believable world, but it's not our world.
We were lucky enough to have the help of a tremendously gifted art department.
I'm responsible for the look of the show, from the kind of the floor to the sky, and working out what the CGI is going to be, the whole look of it from there downwards, so that we have a complete look to the series.
You've got to create a world from scratch that feels like you're in a different time and place. So it's creating different environments that feel real, that don't feel like either contemporary or known periods. That's the main thing.
The biggest challenges have been, I guess, the scale of the event. We've created very high standards for ourselves. There's a lot of bits to this, and it just has been a lot of stuff to pull together.
John Jackson really ranged far and wide to find the artistic resources and the stylistic resources to give us a world we haven't seen before.
There's an Arctic wasteland, which is very far north, and you go all the way to a more desert wilderness and everything in between. Our brief was to try to combine interesting visual elements from a lot of different societies and periods. So we spent a lot of time researching medieval Europe. We looked at Oriental influences, we looked at Asian influences, we looked at the subcontinent, we looked at African influences. We tried to find references from a lot of different civilizations in different times and combine them.
You try and create a world that's based in real physics, even if it's fantasy, there has to be a reality to it, or it'll just look like a set. So you're always trying to think, how would these people live? What would they need? Why would they put things where they do? How would they feel?
I think the approach we want to take is that yes, it is fantasy, but it's very grounded in reality. And I think we want to make it as real as possible. And that's the same approach we're taking with absolutely everything. And I think as the series goes on, we see the great difference between the four worlds in which the series inhabit.
It's very important to have a completely different look and the light be different and topography. We've been given the luxury of being able to span various countries. So we've scouted probably 14 different countries when we're trying to decide where to shoot and why ultimately we decide to shoot Northern Ireland. You drive 25 minutes and you're at some beautiful forest somewhere, and you drive 45 minutes, you're at this great old castle.
It's a huge scale. Shooting simultaneously in two different countries, Malta and Ireland, is a challenge. But it's great fun. We love it.
One of the fun things about this show is that we get to make it up. We're not hewing to any particular historical period, absolutely. This is a fantasy series, and that gives us a lot of freedom, and that's part of the fun of it.
Fantasy is always bigger. I mean, fantasy is larger and more colorful and more exciting, I think, than the history. So if you take your inspiration from something in history, you can make it much bigger and perhaps more dramatic.
Just the best story. It's fascinating. There's so many twists and turns, and when you think you've got it figured, it completely changes mind. And
You follow it and get excited by it. There's real emotion and there's real relationships that you can understand and relate to. It's just brilliant. It's a wonderful story.
This interesting combination of a very real world with an overlay of fantasy is a pretty intriguing combination. I think it's something that you see nowhere else on television currently. I don't think anybody will do it quite the way HBO does.
What do you know about fear? Fear is for the winter, when the snows fall 100 feet deep. Fear is for the long night, when the white walkers move through the woods. When the sun hides for years, and children are born and live and die, all in darkness. That is the time for fear, my lord.